Bon dia, benvinguts al MACBA. Aquesta, com sempre, és una oportunitat excel·lent. Hi ha algun problema amb el micro? Tot bé? Sí? Continuo? Val. És que em feien senyals a darrere. Bon dia a tots els que esteu aquí al MACBA, deia, i els que esteu a casa o els que ens veureu en diferit després d'aquest dematí. Em fa molta il·lusió, especialment... I wait until you guys have the mic. Em fa molta il·lusió especialment aquesta proposta. Com sabeu, una de les preocupacions del museu és també com ens imaginem la vida a la Terra. Recordeu, la setmana passada van tenir aquí a Sara Nuttall, François Vergés, a Achille Mbembe, juntament amb els directors del que és el programa d'estudis independents, i parlaven, sobretot, al voltant de la noció d'oasis, del que suposaria, de quina és l'última utopia i de com vivim en una terra comú que tenim com a espai, quina seria la possibilitat que tenim de viure en aquest món que hem heredat i quines són les perspectives que tenim d'imaginar-nos la Terra com un organisme únic cap al futur. De fet, em fa molta il·lusió que després d'aquella setmana que començàvem, com deia, a parlar de coses que veurem també a l'exposició de Daniel Stigman-Magraner a final d'aquest any, que era molt interessant portar l'obra i el projecte de formulació d'un corpus infinit, de la Terra com un espai únic, de la implicació profunda que suposa partir d'aquesta idea que hem de reimaginar-nos el cosmos, que hem de començar a pensar quines són les alternatives al món violent que s'ha generat per unes pràctiques heredades vinculades a l'extractivisme colonial, però també als moviments migratoris, a moltes altres tensions polítiques, sociopolítiques i, sobretot, de caràcter mediambiental. Per això deia que em fa molta il·lusió tenir amb nosaltres el filmmaker, el director de cinema Arjuna Neuman i la filòsofa, artista, pensadora, no sé de quines maneres es podem expressar el que significa per nosaltres tenir aquí a Denise Ferreira da Silva, perquè ells des de fa 8 anys han treballat al voltant del que significa o del que ens podem imaginar o com ens podrien imaginar el món si el pensessin des del punt de vista dels elements. Jo em recordo especialment quan van treballar amb el tema al voltant del colonialisme i la devastació ecològica, amb una de les pel·lícules que veureu aquí, Four Waters Disimplicancy, 4 aigües, profunda implicació, o implicació profunda, que parlaven també d'aquesta manera en què el món es podia entrelligar i que pensaven en com ens podrien imaginar un moment primordial de la Terra en què aquests elements que ens defineixen l'hàbitat en el que visquem d'alguna manera s'obrien a aquest possible canvi. Un canvi que no té l'ésser humà com el punt més àlgid de la piràmide, sinó que ens compta com un més dintre d'aquest únic organisme. L'obra, de fet, hi ha una part interessant i espero que ens parlin d'això, de com tot de sobte les vostres formes de treballar, les vostres trajectòries personals, una lligada al món del cinema i una altra lligada al món del pensament filosòfic, es troben per donar una entitat a una estètica específica que fa possible una altra manera d'entendre el pensament, però també l'experiència artística, l'experiència vital, el que significa entrar dintre d'una sala d'un museu, d'una sala d'un espai expositiu i aprendre aquesta visió del món. Una de les coses també interessants que passaran aquests dies si veniu a veure l'exposició és que us trobareu amb molt de material que ha sigut el necessari per als artistes per treballar en el projecte. Molta documentació que molt generosament han volgut presentar aquí. Molta d'aquesta documentació està en idiomes original amb subtitulació en anglès, perquè és un material que normalment no ensenyeu a les exposicions, però que vau decidir que volíeu compartir amb el públic que volgués endinsar-se d'alguna manera en aquestes problemàtiques. I d'altra que també em sembla molt important és la manera en què moltes vegades les exposicions estan precedides per un col·loqui o per un moment de conversa, tant les entrevistes que feu com converses públiques. De fet, vam treballar plegats a The Showroom i a Goldsmith amb una presentació amb la British Columbia de molts ponents, com ara el Mark Harris o el Carmica, etc., que ens parlaven d'aquesta intersecció entre estètica, racialitat i colonialitat. O també ens vam veure a Mèxic treballant a Oaxaca amb comunitats com a la Mije o com altres comunitats que pensaven en quin eren els claims ancestrals, les lluites al voltant de l'aigua com un element fonamental del que després serà la peça final que veurem aquí, Short Breath, Corpus Infinitum. Però, de fet, vull deixar-los amb ells que ens parlin una mica més de les pel·lícules. Només volia comentar que la seva trajectòria té un punt d'inflexió, crec que és molt interessant, que són aquestes preguntes que estan vinculades a com la crisi ecològica, l'extractivisme, les lluites territorials, l'esclavitud, la sobirania i les migracions tracen un recorregut amb allò que dèiem abans. Tenen a veure amb aquestes circumstàncies que s'han postergat, diguéssim, per el colonialisme. I la proposta que ens fan és com pensar totes aquestes estructures que determinen la manera en què ens identifiquem, diguéssim, col·lectivament, de quines maneres aquests sistemes de coneixement, les cultures, el temps, els espais i les formes poden ser après de nou o poden desordenar-se o desaprendre-se. I aquí ho deixaré només dir que per compilar, una de les coses que hem fet per afavorir, diguéssim, l'aprofundissament en el que és la seva pràctica és fer un dels quaderns portàtils, que és el 939. Aquest es diu S'avecina un terratrèmol, en el que tres de les seves més, diguéssim, dels assajos que ens ajuden a entendre més la seva obra, Reivindicacions ancestrals, que és del 2022, Purpurina interior i també S'avecina un terratrèmol, que per primera vegada es presenten en castellà, ens ajuden també a fer aquest rerefons comú, a entendre el rerefons comú que forma part de la seva trajectòria. Jo només volia, com sempre, agrair als companys de la casa que han treballat en aquest projecte, en especial a la Cristina Bonet, que ha fet un exercici de coordinació d'aquest projecte que han liderat els propis artistes, però sobretot també a l'equip audiovisual, no diré noms, sobretot els equips de la casa, però especialment els equips audiovisuals deien en aquesta ocasió perquè han arribat a perfilar, i això l'Arjuna ens parlarà més, de com de vegades la nostra experiència a l'espai d'exposició també ve guiada pels elements com el so, a més de la imatge, i en aquest sentit Joan i altres han fet una feina excel·lent perquè l'experiència de l'espectador sigui exquisita. Dono la paraula, si voleu, i continuem la presentació. Dono la paraula a Denise. A pleasure to have you here.
Yes, it's working. It's a pleasure to be here, really. Thank you, Elvira, for bringing us here, and thank you, Christina, and the whole team for doing such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful job with the exhibition. A lot that you're going to see up there has to do with how that work was put together, and not only with the works that are there. So it was really amazing to be here. I was asked to speak about the project in general, and also about the difficulties and the challenges, and I think also the positive things. But I am a bad academic in this sense that I usually I usually don't do the things I'm supposed to do, hence I'm doing films now, right? So I will try to do it as close as possible to what I was asked to do, but I'm afraid, well, Arjuna is here, so he can, make up for what's missing. So you'll be looking at eight years of a collaboration that responded to an invitation was a very kind invitation, and in the project to which we were invited was also a very important project which still resonates in all the films, and I think will continue to resonate both in the work that we're going to be doing together, but also I think in our individual work. But that very kind invitation was also a major challenge that is also in the work, but not so much as a challenge, but as the generative element that we encounter every time we think about the next project. So the invitation came from Stefano Horny. He was a member of the Free Thought Collective, and they curated the Bergen Assembly of 2016. And Stefano paired, there were two pairs, Arjuna and myself, and Fred Moulton and Wu Sang, and both pairs were like academics and filmmakers. And to us, the challenge was that Arjuna would do a film based on my ideas or my reflections on the slave ship that was found off the coast of Denmark back in the 70s, and finding that slave ship actually was an evidence that Norway was involved in slave trafficking. So we're going to talk about a slave ship found in Denmark, right? And then the directive was that Arjuna was going to film me talking in a shipyard. And we spent an afternoon, a rainy afternoon at the shipyard. And I was not a good talking head. I would forget what I was supposed to say. And then when I had to repeat what I had just said, I wouldn't remember. But anyway, it just didn't work. And very quickly, we realized that it didn't make sense to convey the kind of critique of time that I was talking about in a form that it's marked by time. And also, making a very long story short, we also very quickly realized that actually the project, which was our challenge, was how to make a film without time. And back then, I was already collaborating with Valentina Desideri in the poetical readings, which is a different practice that I have. And the poetical readings were informed by the 4 classic elements: water, air, fire, and earth. And in the poetical readings, we use different tools, such as tarot and astrology, which you'll see in the films, in the exhibition too. And we use those tools precisely because they allow us to think and image things through the elements. So when we decided to face the challenge of how to do a film without time, the elements were there, reminding us that the elemental is timeless, but is also, and has been for a long time all over the planet, the basis for describing things that exist, for making connections between humans and more than humans, and also and across all the different existence. And so Serpent Rain is a film in which all 4 elements are there, attempting to and failing to do a film without time. But I think it does it very nicely. So much so that it inspired us to work to continue our collaboration and do other films, make other films, each informed by one of the classic elements. So For Waters was one of them, and Soot Breath is inspired by the element of earth. But still, as I said, like the initial challenge, each film, like the challenge that brought us together and brought Serpent Rain, as each film also attempts to deal with an historical aspect that plays out in the global conditions, but do so in a way that does not, as Elvira was saying, that does not reproduce both the symbolic violences and violations, but also the economic, juridic, and ethical violations that mark our existence on this planet. So you see that while Serpent Rain advances a critique of Marxism, of historical materialism, For Waters advances is a commentary on the refugee crisis, and I'm using quotation marks here, but it is a critique of the ways in which, through which Europe dealt with the displacement of populations from the global south by building itself as a fortress. And it advances that critique through a description of other ways of existing in the world in which, while we acknowledge the differences between the Indian Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and the Pacific Ocean, while we acknowledge those different waters, they are all water, right? So they are still the same thing. So they are different, but they are not separable because it's the same element. And that, and we propose that as a point of departure for, thinking of our differences by acknowledging not only the inseparability at the level of the water, but also the inseparability at the elementary level, at the quantic level. And that is what deep implicancy is about the fact that we are all involved in each other physically. And Soot Breath is, again, a commentary on the present. And Soot Breath was, that was interesting because that film, I was in Brazil. I was back home in January 2019. And no, I wasn't in Brazil. My parents were in Vancouver. And we were watching Brazilian TV. And then I saw the collapse of the dam in Brumadinho, Minas Gerais. That dam is an iron ore dam. And I was looking at it and wondering, like, how is it that it's happening again? How is it that extraction, which is in itself a violent mode of appropriation of what's, of earth, of something that exists, and also it's possible through the expropriation of labor. How is it that in addition to extract from the earth, in addition to expropriate labor, it also brings its waste, bring even more violence, which was the collapse, what we saw with the collapsing of the dam. So we were talking, so like, oh, we have to do it. The next film has to be about it in somehow, and it did. I don't remember more how we got. I have no memory, no problem. But we did Soot Breath as a film about extraction, as a critique of extraction and neoliberal economics praxis. But again, that reconnects the present, the global present, to the colonial conditions of emergence. And we are now working on the film inspired by the element air, and I'm not going to say much about it. Arjuna can say more about it. I just want to say that, so the image, Corpus Infinitum, is, it is an image for existence and the search of everything that exists, both at the quantic level and the cosmic level. And it is a contradictory image. It is the image of a body without limits, without temporal and without spatial limits. And that image is an invitation. I believe that as we try to image it literally with images, but also with sounds and the words in the films, it is an invitation to step out of the comfort given by our categories and concepts and all the the terms and ideas that we use to talk about our existence, and actually. And experience and experiment with a sensibility that begins through that acknowledgement. So Soot Breath speaks to it very explicitly by talking about heat, about calor, but all the other films are very much about this other way of imaging how we exist, because I don't think, and I know Arjuna doesn't think, that we can just change how we are organized socially, politically, just by that, right? The transformation has to be deeper. It's about that to which we pay attention. That is what we care for. And that shift at the level of the attention is a shift at the level of sensibility. So it is emotional, it is intellectual, but it's also right here. And that's, I think, more than the images, I think that's what the films are about. And I think I spoke for a long time.
Thank you
for your attention.
No, thank you so much, Denise. That's so rich. And just to remind everybody that later this afternoon we will have a conversation at 6:30 where we will go deeper into some of these ideas. But before we do that, there is still, a show to see, a lunch to have, and to hear you if you have any question later on. Please, Arjuna Neuman.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elvira, and a really huge thanks to the team who have been working tirelessly to put together a very, very beautiful show. I'm going to talk a little bit about the new film that we're working on now, because it sort of encapsulates a lot of what we've been working on for the past 8 years, but I'm also going to jump around a little bit and talk a little bit about our methods, the way we film a little bit, and how the filming helps us think and imagine. The new film, Ancestral Clouds, Ancestral Claims, is inspired by air, but not just air. I think we really focused on clouds and fog and mist. And there's two important things about clouds that we've been paying a lot of attention to. The first is it's a space where all the elements combine. So you get rain, you get wind, you get lightning, and you get hail. So you get all of the elements clustered in a cloud. But it's also a space where many of your senses meet. So when you're in a fog, you taste the fog. The fog is inside of your lungs. You see it, or you don't see it. You feel it on your skin. So the cloud, the fog, offers a meeting point of the elements and of the senses. And I think, reflecting back, I don't think we would have identified those as our interests at the beginning, but reflecting back, I think that's quite a good frame for, what our practice, or where our practice and thinking has developed. But to jump right back to the beginning, in Serpent Rain, we asked this question at the end, and I think it's in some of the press material, is what becomes of the human if expressed by the elements? And this has been more or less a question we keep returning to. And I think, as we were writing the text, the intertitles for the film, this really stuck, and it really became the question we wanted to end the first film with. And I think it resonated with both of our interests. I coming from a bit more of an ecological and climate change background, and he's coming a bit more from a decolonial background. And it was really a meeting point of our research and interest, and it sort of focused things out focused things in and then opened out to, all of the subsequent films and discourse and practices. I think one of the things, in terms of method, in terms of where we work, I come from a documentary filmmaking background, photography background, and as we were starting to make the first film, Denise suggested, what if we don't make a documentary, but we make a document? Or what if we document what if we document our conversation? What if the film, the practice becomes a document of the research we're doing, the discussions, the conversations? And I think what I was interested in was seeing how these conversations are influenced and inspired by different landscapes, different settings, different elemental influences. One of the early sites that I wanted to continue the conversation in was in front of a frozen waterfall. We were thinking about time and timelessness, and what would it mean to discuss timelessness in Norway, in a remote part of Norway, in front of a frozen waterfall. And we spent the whole day looking for one, and we finally found one, and you'll see it in Serpent Rain. And I think this was an experimental method at the beginning, but we continue to do it. We continue to visit contested landscapes and talk and also document and also spend time recording. One of the things that we record, we do very long audio recordings, field recordings, and we use binaural microphones, so you have to stand very still in the landscape and for 10 minutes. And I think something happens, we're talking, and then we stand still for 10 minutes and attune to the landscape, attend to the different features, the wind, the elements. And they're not just like beautiful landscapes, they're landscapes that are highly contested historically or in the present, from the mining collapse of the dam in Bomagino to the coast of Haiti, which is the first site slaves would have seen crossing the Atlantic, to Lesvos, to the refugee island or camps in the island. So we take our different approaches, conversation, philosophical, documentary, and we see how they work in these landscapes, how we respond to them. And I think this is super important. So much of the post-Enlightenment European thinking comes from people who maybe never left Northern Europe or never, experienced the jungle. And I think to think from locations like the jungle or the desert or the Caribbean is very important in our ongoing practice.
Bueno, hi ha moltes coses, no, que heu comentat que són importants. Perdó. Gràcies. Moltes coses que heu comentat que són fonamentals per entendre el que es veurà a l'exposició, i jo crec que deixaria aquí perquè els col·legues de la premsa, si tenen alguna pregunta, la fessin. I després us convidem a, com algú diu, a passejar per les sales, perquè realment hi ha poca guia que fer, no? O sigui, realment és una exposició que parla d'aquests diàlegs col·lectius, però que també convida a la reflexió molt personal, del que significa estar confrontada amb algunes de les temàtiques que exposeu a les pel·lícules. Jo no sé si hi ha alguna pregunta. Hi ha un micròfon aquí per si algú necessita... Sí?
Hola, bon dia. Jo volia preguntar, no he vist l'exposició abans, si les pel·lícules les exposen d'alguna manera concreta de la qual valgui la pena parlar.
I think that we do show them in cinemas, but I think we prefer to show them in gallery, museum settings, and that way we can extend the film installations in a way that it engages the tactile and sensory experience of the viewer, from the sound to what the floor feels like, to temperature. All of these sensory components are something you can bring into an installation that you can't really have influence over in the cinema. And you'll see when you go upstairs that the gestures are relatively subtle, but I don't know, they're not designed to shock you. They're designed that slowly you notice that you're standing on a different type of floor, or the lighting changes. And I think this kind of subtle engagement of your senses is key.
It's on? Yes. Yeah, I just want to reconnect it to what I was talking about the shift in sensibility. So even before you sit to watch the film, you're already feeling the space in another way. So your body is being invited to be ready for what's coming. In the movie theater, you're sitting in the chair and you're looking at the big screen, right? It's a whole different body positioning.
Alguna altra qüestió? Sembla que ara, abans de pujar a les sales, com deia, crec que li llancem la proposta. Només donar les gràcies de nou a Denise, a Arjuna, a tota la gent del... No sé què hi ha. Sí? No? No passa res. És que jo sento que la veu fa una cosa rara, però vaja. En principi tot bé. El so a dalt està bé. Només donar-vos les gràcies de nou per estar aquí, per haver vingut i que disfruteu molt de les pel·lícules i de l'exposició, del material, que és una, com deien ells, és una exposició també per ésser, per estar, per intentar també adentrar-se en els subjectes que ells ens proposen. I sobretot el volia donar les gràcies de nou a l'equip, a tota la gent que ha treballat amb el projecte i que ens veiem a les sales o ens veiem aquesta tarda a les 6:30 per la conversa. Moltes gràcies.